Hello, everyone, and welcome to Reimagining Defense and Unveiling Cyber Risks with Agentic AI. That is what I call an intriguing title. Looking forward to this discussion. This webinar is sponsored by Automox, NetApp, Strike48, and Wiz, and produced by SmartBrief. Speaking of that company, my name is Keith, and I'm a moderator with SmartBrief. We are a future B2B company, and I am so excited to be here with you today. This is going to be a fabulous event, I promise. And I'm going to start out by covering some housekeeping items that you do need to know, beginning, as always, on the right-hand side of your screen with that chat tab. One of three you will see up there. The chat is where we hang out during the event. We connect with each other, share thoughts, ideas, stories, emojis, whatever you are excited about. That is what you do. And how we normally begin is to tell us who you are and where you are. You know who I am. Where I am is in North Central Maryland, not far from Pennsylvania. We've got Jumana, let's see, from France. How is the Tour de France going? I've been watching it. All right, Sachin is in New Jersey. Good to see you. Tim is in Missouri. And Dylan is in Ottawa. Jeff is in Florida. And we have got Maria from the UK. Way to go. All right, Madrid is where Oscar is. We've got folks from all over Europe right now. I love to see that. Damien is in California, Steve is in Kansas City, and Michael is in San Juan Capistrano, where the cameraman Larry, of course, went 6 years in a row to capture the swallows. That's an old joke for those of you who love Groundhog Day. Okay, great stuff there. Now, chat is also the place to go to get help with any technical issues that you might have during our discussion today. Okay, if something goes wrong, if you can't hear something, you can't see something, what you want to do is let us know in chat. And the spectacular Dylan will hop on and try to help you out. First thing you want to do if something goes wrong is to give your browser a quick refresh, maybe two. Sometimes it takes a couple. But if that doesn't work, let us know in chat, and we will hop on and help you out. All right. Central Bank of Nigeria. Wow. That is amazing. So great to have all these people. Steamboat Springs is where Tyler is. Toronto is where Manuel is. And Virginia is where Prashant is. This is just fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right. Next thing you need to know is we have got a panel full of Uber experts that are going to be joining me in just moments. And you should take full advantage of them by asking lots of questions. Now, the Q&A tab is 2 doors down from the chat tab. You will see it right there. So ask your questions in Q&A and chat with the rest of your group here over in the chat. So chat is for just hanging out and talking amongst ourselves. Q&A is specifically for questions. In the middle of those two, you will find the Docs tab. Now, the Docs tab has got some great content there from our sponsors today. It is all free and ready for you to download. So please make sure you go over there to the Docs tab during the discussion, click around and explore. There is some fabulous content there. I promise you that also. Okay, finally, as you can see on the slide here at the bottom is we are going to be making one of you $250 richer, courtesy of an Amazon gift card I am giving away at the end of the webinar. Now, you do have to be in attendance during the entire live event to qualify for the prize. All winners must meet our prize terms and conditions, which you can also find in the Docs tab. I have no idea why you'd want to read those, but if you do, that is where they are. All right. Lastly, on our little tour, you can set the language and closed captioning in the lower right-hand part of your screen. If you need those functions, we have got multiple languages available. Please take advantage if you need that. And with that, let's meet our experts today. These are the folks I am super stoked about being here with. You can see their names right here. We have got Sneha, we have Tim and Jason and Minith. What I'm going to do is bring them all on and introduce you to them. All right. Hello, everyone in our fabulous panel today. What I'm going to ask all of you, just give us a really brief little bio. Tell us a little bit about your background and why you are here today. So Tim, since you are right underneath my picture here, I'm going to start with you. Just give us a real brief rundown on who you are.
Yeah, I am here with Strike48. Super excited to be here. Spent my life in tech, actually mostly on the forensic side, doing some really cool stuff. Last 3 years in AI enablement. And yeah, I'm blown away by everybody that's joined. Already crazy sort of the reach this thing has. And for those of you that don't know, Keith's actually really a quiet guy. So
You know me so well, Tim. All right. Next up, we have got Minith. Minith, please introduce yourself to the friendly audience today.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us from around the world. We appreciate your attendance today. My name is Minith Patel. I'm a senior solutions architect for NetApp, and I cover AI and analytics basically for our organization. And I've been in tech for about 17 years. Security is one of those avenues and subject areas that I love, and here to share more about that with the panel today. So looking forward to a great conversation and awesome questions from the audience.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Okay, Sneha, please, you are on deck. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Keith. Hi, everyone. My name is Sneha, and I'm on the product marketing team at Wiz, and I've been leading our initiatives around data and AI and really just thinking about how do we set ourselves up for the landscape we're in. Really excited to be here and both learn from all of you and have some discussions around how we move through this era. Thank you.
So glad to see you. Sneha has been with us before, and she is always fabulous. Okay, Jason, last but never least, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Thanks so much, Keith. Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Kikta, and I am the Chief Technology Officer at Automox, where I've been doing a lot of thinking on both how AI changes the landscape for us as a vendor and also how it changes the landscape for users of our product and what that means to me as a lifelong IT practitioner.
Absolutely. And I must say that, Jason, I think your name is going to be the most fun to say. Kikta, Kikta. I just want to have reasons to say that today. So thank you so much, everyone, for being with us. That is our all-star panel. They are ready to go, and so am I, as you might have realized. Now, as each of our panelists knows, the rise of agentic AI has shifted cybersecurity from static automation to autonomous decision-making. And folks, it is terrifying, I think. Our experts are going to discuss how these agents weaponize threat actors while reimagining defense. We're going to be exploring the agentic pipelines attack surfaces, the speed problem, and how to architect machine speed resilience. So as you can tell, this is an absolutely crucial topic that is just more pressing every single day. We are beginning our first topic coverages about the threat landscape shifts and balancing AI hype with execution speed. So the first question today is for our entire panel. So what I'm going to do is ask the question and then kind of throw it open and let everyone answer. So this is for our four guests today. Agentic AI represents a shift from static automation to autonomous decision-making, as I just mentioned. Question is, given your expertise, how is this fundamentally changing the way security teams think about defense, and what does that mean for the legacy security platforms they rely on today? Now, I know there are four of you, and whoever would like to speak up first, and then all of you are welcome to add your thoughts to that. So please, whoever would like, or I guess whoever speaks up first, grab the mic. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go. I literally just got off the phone with a customer, and we were having this exact discussion. So I have sort of fresh data and kind of what AI had meant to them in terms of how they were dealing with their landscape and how they were protecting themselves was prior to implementing a sort of a robust, I think they would describe themselves as L1 agenticized and half of L2 maybe. they had gone from a situation in which they would have routinely 1,000 open alerts on backlog, right? They just couldn't get through them. They were just sitting on backlog. And then every once in a while, they do what they call the purge, a clean event, where they basically just flushed them all. And then, well, nothing bad has happened, so those must not have been real, and then moved on to try to keep up. At this point, they're having 64% of their cases closed by that AI, by that L1 and a half, if you will, AI. And they're able to spend more time not only addressing things that they think are actually real, but actually, instead of just sort of ignoring the alerts, they spend a fair amount of time refining the AI itself, right? So they're like, hey, give me more data. Let me teach it. Let me improve this L1. Maybe it didn't give me a good enough reasoning in this one case. Maybe it was too verbose. Maybe it, or ignored something or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like if they were on today, they would be telling me, it's enabled them to sort of think deeply and action those deeper thoughts, right? Like sort of set it in stone, put it into the AI prompt, put it into the workflow, and just provide better coverage to their org. Now, do they feel like they're like completely covered? Do they feel like L1's done perfectly? No, not at all. But every 2 weeks, do they have to flush 1,000 alerts? No, they're also, so that's kind of how it has been for them over the last, I don't know, sort of 2 to 3 months as they've really operationalized an agentic solution.
All right. Yeah, alert fatigue is real. It's only getting worse. Okay, who would like to step up to the mic next?
So I'll say from the perspective of my own security team, this is something that we've been working through a lot internally, and where does it provide advantages? Where doesn't it? I think the two biggest ones that we've found to date is, one is first on the tuning, right? And what Tim said, spot on, of there always used to be a backlog that you could not service, or you could not service in the time frame that you wanted to. And I've continuously preached to them that, implementing a security tool is only half the battle, that you then need to tune it, not just at the start, but continuously over time. That is the maintenance of a security tool, is tuning it to make sure that you are minimizing, false alerts, not suppressing positives. And so the, ability to have AI assistance in the tuning processes, and then to integrate that picture in with other things for non-specific queries, right? Using products like Wiz to, help us pull down what is critical, but then it draws a sharp contrast with, there are some legacy tools, like you mentioned, Keith, that are not so friendly of what they provide over API. They don't have an MCP server. They make it challenging, or they try to pull you into using their AI and platform where you can't as easily integrate it. And that's where I see the frustration come out. So I think there's a real danger there for vendors who are not, leaning forward enough on enabling those sorts of use cases to be able to filter out what is unimportant, and then to do that synthesis and analysis on what is.
Okay, great. Excellent. Okay, Sneha, would you like to go next?
Sure. I think Jason and Tim really got us to a really great start there. To add on here, I think a big thing that we've seen as a trend of working with customers is, where do you even begin? And starting with first, and I know it sounds simple, is knowing what can actually be trusted as both source of information, and when can you actually act on that information. And a big part of this has been the fact that we are now building in different ways, and there's new teams now at play that weren't before. So one of the things I would introduce into this conversation is that the people at the table has expanded in terms of who's able to build, who's engaging with security, what you have visibility to and don't. And as agents and any components of AI have access to do more, the first question is not just the technology and security problem, those we're going to talk about a lot, but also the people aspect, which is who needs to be at the table, who needs to be engaged with security, how are we unblocking those flows, and how do we even inventory somebody just going out and building what they want. And last thing I'll say is one of the questions that comes up a lot is, we know we want to use AI, but when should AI be used? I think should be a question also that we ask more often.
Great. Yes, absolutely. It should be. Okay, Minith, where do you come down on this whole question of how security has been changed by AI?
I agree with Sneha on the evolving landscape of key players being introduced in the corporate world when it comes to managing security, especially for AI. New organizations within corporate, like CISO for security. Now we have AI Center of Excellences, basically. They are now being tasked to look at security as well. So 100% agree. More players are getting involved in looking at security. One interesting fact regarding security that security teams are thinking is AI agents for AI agents. We're creating more AI agents for securing more AI agents. So that is a cool concept that is kind of getting out there. Just like Jason, you need the right MCP servers and APIs to make sure you have the right security. So whatever tools, features you're using, you need to have the right level of resources required for the new type of security threats that these AI agents are bringing into picture.
That's a really interesting point you brought up. I mean, what I thought of when you're talking about AI agents watching AI agents is the old saying, "Who watches the watchers?" Right? I mean, that is where we are and what we're doing. Okay, fabulous overview. Such good stuff already. Didn't I tell you, everyone, this is going to be a great session? It already is a great one. Don't forget to put your questions in the Q&A tab while we continue to go through. All right, Jason, question for you now. Automox emphasizes that while the conversation around AI vulnerabilities is important, no doubt about that, speed in many ways remains a bigger issue. So how do we reconcile the need for machine speed defense with the lack of executive trust in these autonomous agents?
So I think that what we're really talking about, what people are trying to express when they talk about that lack of trust, that trust gap, it's really about scope, not speed, right? We've all become comfortable with automation in our networks, in our tech stacks. That is just a fact of modern computing today. And so being able to do something at the scale of your network and at machine speed, not new. The scope of what a particular widget can do is now different, right? A deterministic script does that. It does only that. When you introduce an agent and there's inference going on, the potential for it to modify scope in an unhelpful way, that's where you have that danger, and that's the danger that they're perceiving, even though they don't always express it well. And so humans need to keep those high consequence calls, right? We are good at experience, judgment, hopefully accountability. So we need to be in the loop on the high consequence calls, but having your agents run reversible bounded actions, having some sort of oversight, like Minith said, sometimes it's quite appropriate to have a more expensive frontier agent supervising a less expensive agent, whether it be from one of the frontier labs or it be a local model you've trained. Like, there are even techniques for having AI supervise AI, and you sort of build out this tiered level. But that machine speed, that gives you triage, enrichment, ticketing, path orchestration, like all these things to compress that exposure window. And then, if you can demonstrate that you're constraining the blast radius of what it is you're doing, that you have full auditability of every action, my joke to the team is that, what we want the customer to understand is, like, it is still your decisions. We're just executing it at a agentic speed, right? And so, putting inference at the front and producing a deterministic written standard, script, and then having that script run and then producing a standardized report and then using AI to interpret that. Like that is one example of how you can set it up so that you build out that trust of like, okay, I gave it the task, it wrote it, I can review that, I'm comfortable with it. Now it ran, the script is going to run because it's just a script. And now at the other end, I get the results. I can look at the results. If I think something's wonky, I can go back and actually look at the data to see, did it misinterpret it or did we have a problem in the script? And you can trace it on back. So I think that, what this is really allowing us to do is like win those unglamorous gaps, that we weren't able to handle in the past collectively as an industry because we didn't have the time or the capacity to do it.
If I could just jump in, because I think like everything Jason said is so spot on, but I do want to make the point, trust is an unfair game, right? Because it's totally
Sure
unfair. Because the attackers who are now moving at agentic speed, they can be sloppy. They can be aggressive. They can spill the milk all over the floor. It doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? They're a hit and miss. They're playing.
It's an asymmetric advantage.
And we really just need to recognize that we can as CISOs, as executives say, hey, listen, our line managers, they have to be able to have full auditability, all this kind of reversibility, all these things Jason laid out, which are absolutely necessary. But we also have to acknowledge for them, let's be fair. It's asymmetric. You're playing, on your heels, and it's sort of adopt best you can. We're going to be sympathetic kind of approach. That's kind of always what I'm preaching anytime I'm talking to security teams, because I don't want anybody to feel like there's a silver bullet out there, because there is not.
So given what you just said, Tim, you have data, your company has data that shows that leadership trust in AI is still low. So how do organizations balance execution speed and security in the face of the prevailing lack of trust in these systems that you were just discussing?
I can tell, you can just hear the experience in Jason's answer, and I'm just going to riff off of that, because it's a get in and just start doing, right? Don't let trust stop you, because you are playing an asymmetric game. You have to arm yourself properly. So listen, we had a customer that adopted at the beginning of the year. We had grand dreams, right? We were let's go, let's agenticize, and it's been a run, stop, take a step back, reconsider, run, stop. Do you know what I mean? And fortunately, they went in eyes wide open. But that's the only way. Saying I can't trust an agent, so I'm not going to adopt, I'm not going to go down this road, that leads to a dead end cul-de-sac, and at the end of it, you're getting fired sometime in 2027 when you get popped because the attackers are playing an unfair game. And what are you going to tell your board? I adopted a human speed in perpetual approach because I didn't trust AI. It's not going to fly. But you want to be smart, like Jason's saying. Hey, listen, some things we can do deterministically. Let's get the AI to build those for us. Let's test them. Some places we can keep the decision really innocuous. And let's do that. Do you know what I mean? We can give that to some places. We need the human there, and then refine over time. But the thing I tell everybody is get in. I don't care whether you're using Claude Code, a robust system like Strike48, an AI built into your SIM or whatever. Go, because there's no hiding the reality that your attacker has got this in their tool belt and is using it day in, day out now.
That's such an important point, because it can be paralyzing with understanding what agentic AI can do to your system and what it can mean. However, standing still isn't an option anymore. You know, you must get in the game or you are already behind. I would argue in that. So great answer from both of you. All right, we're going to move on now and move on to the topic of data infrastructure and emerging attack surfaces. And Minith, this question is for you. As organizations are deploying autonomous agents handling massive data sets, right? That's what they do. What unique agentic data pipeline vulnerabilities or attack surfaces do traditional security measures overlook?
Yeah, so traditional security measures are not designed to do a lot of new things that these agentic workflows bring. I'll give out I'll share a few of these vulnerabilities. One of them is, you might have heard of it, indirect prompt injection, right? Anytime you have a RAG process, you upload a document, the AI goes through the document. Within the document, now you don't have to use malicious coding. You can use natural language to direct AI to do what you want to do, right? And these documents can have those natural languages in it that says, disregard the last order, do this for me, take this data, move it here, email it to me. So these are new threat patterns that we now have to understand and absorb into our security framework. Like, how do we avoid that? I want a chat agent, but I want to be able to talk to my PDF that I upload. But when I upload that PDF, I want to make sure there's nothing malicious inside, even though there's no coding in it, just natural language to it. So those are the new emerging threat patterns that traditional security doesn't have. Another one, everybody hears about it in the news, like, hey, we heard about a rogue agent, and that is the number one blocker for adopting AI. Basically, an agent goes and does something that it's not supposed to because you empowered it with a lot of things. So security needs to come into picture when it comes to addressing rogue agent activities, right? Deleting databases, deleting files, that needs to be avoided. Another one from new security threat pattern perspective is not new, but you might have heard about it too, which is model poisoning and memory poisoning, right? Model for these models that we use. You want to you want to feed it with some bad data, throw it off from its, regular whatever logic that it's using. So those are the new patterns where, attackers are trying to change slowly whatever AI you have adopted within your organization. And you want to make sure you have something in your security arsenal where you're looking into these aspects where agents use, for example, their own, what do you say, agentic memory, right? There's a compiled long-term memory, short-term memory that is being stored somewhere where this pool of agents go and leverage that to perform their task. Attackers are smart now. They go and try to compromise that data set. So those are the new and emerging threat patterns that we need to keep in mind when it comes to adopting this AI agentic workflows.
Yeah. Thank you very much for scaring us even more than we were at the beginning of this conversation. And no, you're so right that it's a brave new world, and a lot of the attacks, we don't even know what they look like now. I mean, there's so many new ways that AI can find all this. Sneha, so I want to throw this to you and look at it in a little bit different perspective and maybe a higher level perspective, if you will. So from the cloud perspective, the industry is right now just trying to define what agentic risk actually means. I mean, definitions are being written at this point. So with your focus on cloud and AI security at Wiz, where are the biggest visibility blind spots across cloud and AI environments right now? And how are attackers exploiting them?
Yes, that's a huge question. And I'll first start with the two things that are top of mind, I think, in lack of visibility that we see is first, the fact that not only have we changed who is building, but where we're building has only expanded. So you're seeing customers build on your classic cloud PaaS environments. You're also building on SaaS environments. You can now like build on Salesforce. You can build an app on Databricks. You can build AI apps everywhere. And then to top all of these things off, you are now also building custom AI applications. Out of the three, the one that customers complain about having a blind spot for, and is something we also have been tackling to surface, is the custom AI application. So the ones that are fully homegrown, you don't know who built it. And not just you don't know who built it. Sometimes I've had customers that I don't even know what it does, like even after we surface it. So we've actually tried to chip away at that problem and say, okay, going back to a lot of what the group said here, using AI to help find those custom AI applications. So I would say the first kind of big visibility issue, custom AI applications. Second is the assumption that all you need to find to understand an AI application is the app itself, which is just not true, especially for AI apps, because I really think to understand agentic risk, it's about the layers and everything it's connected to. So I think we've already discussed threats, we've discussed data. You cannot consume or understand what agentic risk is if all you've identified is I have an agent. You need to see what models it's connected to, what data does it have potential to expose, does it have agentic identity permissions that it shouldn't have, what can this agent actually do, and then also be able to compare intent and impact. So balancing the fact that you need context and information across so many layers to really see where risk could occur and not in isolation.
Wasn't it nice, Sneha, when we were back in the day when if something was wrong with a program, with a piece of software, you could actually ask the developer about it, right? And because it was developed by a person and you knew it, George wrote that bit of code, Ralph wrote that API. I mean, you could identify the author. It's not so easy anymore, is it? Great stuff there. Okay, let's move on for a little bit and talk about architecting trust and constraint. And Tim, I'm going to go back to you here because we've already talked with you about the lack of AI trust, and you've been an advocate for strict constraints on agent teams and micro agents within your company. So question is, when modernizing SOC or SIM architectures, what defines a trustworthy agent design? And just as importantly, which guardrails are essential for these environments?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question to answer in the abstract, right? Trust is a lot about what the task is you've given the agent, how sensitive is that task. There's sometimes you can say, I trust an agent to do that half the time because I really don't care what happens. Do you know what I mean? Like in terms of assessing an L1 alert, you need some degree of trust, but a huge percentage of them are junk. And so your trust factor there is low. L2, it's much more important because now you're sort of enriching an alert and you're trying to maybe have an actionable event. So from my perspective, there are two things we encourage. One is obviously experimentation. Trust comes from over time, seeing the results and making sure they work right in your environment. Customize the thing to your environment, to the use case. The second thing is, and again, I'm just going to refer back to Jason's initial answer because I liked it so freaking much. It's like, keep the cognitive piece small, guys. Like if we hire an L1 or a NOC operator or a DevOps and we say, hey, do this task, oftentimes we give them a checklist of 10 items, right? And you want them to go through all 10. You didn't ask them to sit down and think deeply. Do maybe there's a point between steps 4 and 5 where you want to apply a little of that judgment that we've been talking about, but from 1 to 10, you want them to do 1 to 10. Don't build an agent that just thinks deeply about the same task. Crank in the playbooks Jason was talking about to do 1 through 4. And then after 4, and this is why we've sort of coined the term micro agent, a micro agent which knows it exists just in that context and is not vulnerable to the large prompts and things like that. It's not even going to be accessed by a human. It's accessed by this flow, right? And so I can deliver not only agentic reasoning, but precision, because I kept the agent really small. And I'll point back to kind of what, Snehal was talking about, because we see it all the time also. It's too easy to build agents. It's simply too easy. And people are like, oh, I'll solve that with an agent. And usually they're talking about simple tasks, and they took their 10-item checklist, they gave it to the agent, they told them check all these things. But you can't guarantee that the agent's going to check them in that order, or going to do it the right way, or apply the degree of determinism you want. You can spend months tweaking prompts and still not come up with a deterministic agent. So, I mean, we really encourage people, sort of, just because you can make an agent in a free form application, look at the use case. If your use case is IT, or something you need precision, or something that's going to touch your production servers, and maybe Claude Code Agent isn't the way to go there. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's not,
Right.
But think deeply, friends, before you go down that path, because that whiz scanner that your CISO's running, it's going to pop up that you just fired up a random agent on the NOC, and that nobody's going to be happy about that. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of where. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean,
Right.
Snehal's preaching to the choir here. Where the power, it's not good.
Yeah.
What was like a month ago, right? We had that vulnerability where people were downloading Claude packages, one that had been compromised. It was Manith. It was like your sort of attack surface conversation, right? They thought they were doing something. I want that package. Boom. Attacker, backdoor, off and running. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to mention, if you're doing your own agents and you're like, it's working. I've run it 10 times. It's working. Then you sit the goofball in front of it, and he has this huge conversation with this Claude Code agent, blows through the context window, doesn't even know there's a context window, and starts to get hallucinations. You got to be smart about how you construct these things. Just because you can build an agent doesn't mean you should. Just because you can give it a prompt, you should think through what that prompt is doing, how much of it is deterministic, how much of it is cognitive. And you think deeply, you work hard. It's not a silver bullet, but there are systems that can construct really powerful outcomes. So, just do the work.
Independent action is why you have to be so careful when you're doing this, Tim. You can't, you don't just, it just doesn't do the code that you've given it. It can think separately. So great advice on how to build that step by step. Jason, I do believe it is now time in the discussion to bring up the M word. Okay, so when we talk about smarter automation and mythos ready thinking, there's your M word. How do endpoint management tools leverage agentic AI to reduce exposure window times without introducing new unmanageable software risks? I mean, really, can you even do that?
Yeah, surprisingly straightforward. I don't want to say easy, but it's straightforward to do when you think about like what has changed and what has not, right? And so Mythos is not, nor is any other frontier model, right? And I think Mythos is just an example. It's become a little bit of the boogeyman, but the high-end frontier models like Anthropic could, theoretically or arguably based on the weights, like Fable 5 is basically already Mythos. They could release like full-on Mythos tomorrow, and we'll be having this same discussion 6 months from now on like whatever the latest and greatest thing is from Anthropic or OpenAI or whatever's caught the news. But the reality is they're not finding new classes of vulnerabilities. They're just finding faster, and they're also able to chain together things in ways that are not necessarily obvious to the majority of humans, right? And again, it's not a new thing to chain together a bunch of low and medium CVEs and achieve remote access. I used to work at Fort Meade. I saw it all the time. It's a thing that you can do. is a very small number of people who can do it, right? And so this is just sort of, democratizing that capability, making it more affordable and more accessible. But, you can use agents to help compress your window on the defensive side as well, right? So, continuous detection to be able to remediate, not using a ticket queue log and subjecting it to human review, being able to prioritize by real exposure and not raw CVSS score, right? A lot of people just base their program purely on CVSS score, but there's the modern landscape of how we describe a vulnerability is much richer and more robust today and interacts in different ways, where you have CVSS, you have EPSS, which talks about the likelihood of exploitation, KEV, which is a binary yes, no of have we seen it? What's your asset context, right? And so what is your asset context? When I'm looking at my environment, I'm looking in Automox, I'm looking in Wiz, I'm looking in various products of where is it out on my boundary? Is this network internal? Is this buried in some test network that lives within that really lives with a VM and only gets to touch internal things? What is that asset context so I can understand the risk? And then using guardrails to keep it managed, right? What is the bounded tool scope? I do least privilege with humans. Why would I not do a least privilege approach with agentic models, right? Like use least privilege. It works. It's something that we know. Looking at things like ring deployment or stage rollout. Do I have my actions logged? Again, the discipline that we have built up over decades to govern humans really applies well to models in most cases as well. And then being able to don't allow standing autonomy on high risk blast radius, right? If it's a high risk or a big blast radius, put a human in the loop there, right? At least put a human in the loop until you've validated what it is you're doing. So, the you can construct and not just blindly trusting the model. And I think that's the part that people sometimes overlook when they, get hesitant about, oh my gosh, how will we keep up? We're going to keep up. We just have to adopt the new technology and become comfortable with it in a way that we haven't before, right? Our risk appetite is going to change. I remember internet adoption in the 80s and 90s, and everyone's like, you want me to do what with our internal network or what with my standalone computer? Are you out of your mind? And today in modern business, I don't want to network this computer. That wouldn't even compute for us. No pun intended, right? That isn't just not, it's not even something that would be entertained. And so this is another sort of, big generational shift of how we need to think about risk and where we, are going to choose to apply controls.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen stats, Jason, that companies now have anywhere from 3 to 10 times the number of agentic AI identities on their network, as human employees now. It's just amazing to see the growth in that. So let's move into, we've really discussed the issue, the problem, the challenges very well. Let's move a little bit more into now proactive defense and automated response. And so, Minith, I have a question for you. We're going to talk about cyber resilience at machine speed. So in what ways, Minith, does NetApp, your company, see infrastructure self-adjusting to counter, let's say, a ransomware strike?
Okay. So ransomware attack, again, a broad topic, one of the number one priority for CISOs in any organization. Basically, a few facts about ransomware. US is the number one country in the world that gets attacked the most statistically. And another statistics I can share that comes to my mind is 80% of the folks who get attacked pay. So that is number one security priority for any organization out there, is how to avoid.
80%, did you say? Minith, just want to check. You said 80% pay?
80% pay.
That is staggering. Sorry to interrupt. That's stunning. Yeah.
Yeah. And 25 to 50% attackers who paid get attacked again and pay. Because
and a lot of them don't even get all their data back. Very common as well when the restore happens and everything. Yeah. Please, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's good to know, right? It's one of the biggest security threats out there is constantly getting bombarded and attacked, for ransomware. So what does NetApp have? NetApp understands the importance of it. So we have a security feature. I'll just talk about one of the key ones that we have. It's called ARP AI, which is basically autonomous ransomware protection. What we're doing is we're using machine learning for cyber resilience at machine speed, basically. So we can now understand any anomalous file entropy or malicious encryption happening as fast as possible in flight, basically. And we can do three things: identify the threat, lock it down, and cut off the blast radius, because blast has already happened. Something's already there, basically. So that's what we can do, and this feature is enabled by default. So, our customers who use our products are basically able to leverage this security function that helps them. And there's more to it on how it can be done better. But yeah, since you asked, what do we have in our arsenal? We do have like a feature where we use machine learning AI models to help us analyze new threat patterns, new file type encryption that happen, and all that.
The black hats are using it, so we need to be using it too, to help us. Great point. Now, Sneha, moving over to you now. Minith mentioned blast radius, and this certainly relates to what you do at Wiz as well. How do these efforts, how can they be integrated with immediate cloud threat identification to halt lateral progression, right, to limit that blast radius before a human responder can even review the notification?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think part of it is the only way that we're going to be ready for this landscape where models like Mythos can find and exploit things in seconds is by using AI ourselves. So we really think of our approach as being ready for this threat readiness landscape as winning AI with AI. So the only approach to that, and we've seen tremendous success with this, especially with the threat side, is actually deploying AI. And of course, there's the journey of trust that we've all kind of gone on to really ask. And a tip that I give customers is definitely any AI that you implement, you should make sure it's explainable, actionable, and transparent, just as a baseline, right? Like, can you explain what it's doing? Why are you using it in simple English? Can you see exactly what steps it took and why? Right? And can you actually take action on it? If not, maybe it doesn't need to be deployed. But when you have AI in use in things like this in threat scenarios, you want to actually decide what you have risk appetite for in terms of response and actually automate that. So put the response, in our case, we have a threat agent, but it could be your own or anything else that's doing the investigation that your analyst would do, not to take away from the insight you need from the analyst, but to take a pass at, okay, I do think this is malicious versus not, this is real versus not. Let me at least reduce the blast radius and take action A that we feel comfortable that we have the appetite for. And it can also inform what kind of alert are we sending to the human? Like, are we waking up somebody in the middle of the night? Or is this something for tomorrow morning? Even helping with that decision is where AI comes in. And I think it's the only way. And a big part of this is also tackling validated exploitable risk even before it becomes a threat. So not only using AI to identify something already happened, but when you have any valid exploitable risk paths that AI has found for you with your attack surface overall, treat it like a threat in advance so you reduce how much is getting there.
Absolutely. Okay, now, question about the resilience and proactive protection for Tim and Jason. We're going to start with you, Tim. Give me a micro buyer's guide overview here. What I mean is when an organization is looking to buy or build AI agents to layer into their existing architecture, what do you consider are the absolute must-haves they should look for to ensure the agents that they're getting don't hallucinate or actually worsen an incident response timeline?
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting. It actually aligns with a lot of the questions we've been getting in the Q&A area, which is, this concept of And I tell people to take a step back and try to figure out what you're trying to solve. If you're trying to solve a walled garden problem, let's say, for example, you want to uh, generate good reporting out of a Splunk tool, something like that, to resolve your audit or your mean time to resolution type reporting. Then looking at the agent Splunk provides you is probably a great place to start. Do you know what I mean? It's a walled garden, but most people are trying to, like when we talk L1, L2, certainly L2, we're trying to span tools, right? We're trying to say, okay, we're actually really trying to replicate what a human who is sitting in front of 4 different tools is doing. And we're trying to do it as deterministically as possible. And at that point, really, we advocate again aggressively for almost an AI platform or a more sort of governed AI approach, because you really want connectivity across the IT stack. You want all those things Sneha was talking about in terms of the ability to monitor the governance of it, sort of ensure that it's not doing rogue actions and things like that. And that's all about the platform you do it in. So if you just randomly bake up an agent and hook it directly into APIs, you're really setting yourself up for problems. If you go to a vendor in a walled garden, understand that you're in that walled garden. Can be incredibly powerful in that walled garden. But if you're trying to do something that spans across layers, make sure you're implementing a platform that can do that and that has the governance and all the kind of things that Sneha was talking about. But before I sort of end the answer, I do want to throw in one story on Manith, because people always talk about ransomware. I owned 40% of a company that was shut down overnight. They got attacked by a Russian ransomware company. All the data, it was a VDI company, all the data encrypted. At the end of the weekend, we had inbound legal action. Company was over. There wasn't even a way to pay to get out of it. At that point, the company was sunk. So really, how do you do that? Like we've been talking about governance and all this kind of stuff. We talked about mythos and stuff. Really, what we advocate, at least in terms of SOC and cyber resiliency, is start to combine the red team and the blue team, right? Why are you waiting? Why are you running your red team once a year just for an audit? Build a solution that feeds a red team right into the blue team and tells you and utilizes a mythos to find what the hackers are going to find, because now they got it anyway. Do you know what I mean? Stop waiting for the CVE to be published. These are all things that are actionable today. And by the way, can be actioned in a way that doesn't jeopardize you, because this is AI just doing investigation, right? You don't have to, you can say, okay, the AI's found this vulnerability. You can now assess, do I want to build, maybe I just build an alert. That's tame. Maybe I actually push a patch. Maybe that's a little bit more dangerous. I want a human involved in that. But you really got to take advantage of what's out there, because you really can. There are systems. We've got one that will integrate your red and blue team and enable you to just sort of proactively be almost emulating the hack.
Tim, I hope you didn't end up for a time living in a box under a highway overpass with that 40% of the company that you
I did, in fact, have a lot of those moments where it was like, should I open the door or shouldn't I? Because I know I'm about to get served.
Wow.
I opened it, it went away, it all worked out, but it was crazy. It's totally true.
A good warning. All right. So, Jason, I want to ask you now the same question. What would your advice be in terms of the must-haves that companies should look for to ensure that agents, protective agents they are adding, to make sure they don't hallucinate or make an incident worse, make the timeline for recovery even longer?
I think I love Tim's answer, and I'm going to pile on to it shamelessly. The first thing he brought up.
I've been freeloading off of you, Jason. So go ahead.
Turnabout's fair play. What Tim brought up there about, you can do some things inside the walled garden of a product right? And that is helpful. Like that can be helpful if you're already in the console and you need to answer a question quickly, or you can't quite find what you're looking for, assistance with the task. Lots of great uses there. But the majority of the time, what you really want to be able to do is bring the capabilities of that product down to your composition point where you have connections into many systems. And that's one of the first areas is, being able to get that live system state in a coordinated, centralized place. Because, I always explain AI to friends as, this is an inference engine that runs on context. And so the more context you can give it, the better the quality of that context. Like, what is it? How stale is this? What does it maybe not cover, right? And being able to build all that out very dependably and then bring it together in that place and then give it a task, a well-defined task. People make jokes about prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is a real thing. I was guilty of not using XML tags in my prompts sometimes, and I'd be like, hey, here's this thing, and then bleh, big block of text, and then like 3 more questions down at the bottom that suddenly popped into my head right before I hit enter. And like being able to just like put that thing inside XML to just make it really obvious to the model so it doesn't misunderstand, stuff like that. And that's a basic example, but it helps. It helps a lot. We already discussed, giving it a bounded action surface where it has least privilege scope tools, no open-ended shell. Are there reversible actions? Do you have a kill switch of some kind? Having that auditability, right? And you can step into this with a crawl, walk, run mentality of people. I think try to jump into like we're going to do all the things, and it's not that at all. It's the old joke about how do you eat an elephant, like one piece at a time, right? Like the same way you eat anything else, so you just need to break it down and think about it systematically, and then how do you make sure it won't worsen your IR timeline? Have it fail closed, run models against it to challenge it, and generally you're going to be just fine.
Yep, absolutely, great stuff. Very good advice and warnings here. Okay, everyone, let us see here. We are coming up close to our time today. We would love to do some audience questions live here. We had so much great content that we cannot get to that. I will say that we've been answering the questions via text, so a bunch of answers are out there. And this has been an absolutely fantastic discussion about agentic AI, where we are in this new area and how we are supposed to respond and how to keep ourselves safe in what kind of feels like, I think, as the wild, wild west in so many ways. We just don't know where it's going to go. But now we have some solid, actionable items we can use. I want to thank Sneha and Jason and Minith and Tim for just a phenomenal time today. A great roundtable discussion with these absolute experts who know this stuff so well. Folks, thank you so much for being on today. It has been a true pleasure for me to be sharing this virtual table with you.
Thank you so much, Keith.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Yeah, thanks a lot. And since I know somebody is asking, yes, it is a giraffe.
I think you may have answered the most important question that people had, Tim. Thank you. All right. So great stuff today, everyone. Thank you so much. All right. Wasn't that awesome? I just love situations like that. Just such good stuff here. Now, before I let you go, however, we have got a survey that I would love for all of you to fill out. It is being opened, I think, by Dylan right now. Let's see. Yes, that survey is up. And this is to give us feedback on how we can make these events even better. Please tell us what you like, what you don't like so much. For instance, you really need to get rid of that moderator. He's a total clown who knows nothing. Please feel free to give us that kind of feedback, whatever will make these events the kind of things you have to attend. While you do that, I'm going to quickly again go over, while you fill out that survey, I'm going to quickly go over some of the information over in the docs section from each of our sponsors. Remember, I mentioned before that they have got some great, fabulous resources that you need to be checking out. Automox has a one-pager called Turnkey Results about supercharging the most advanced endpoint management technology with proven best practices. Wiz has got a State of AI in the Cloud 2026, a very important report that talks about how AI adoption, autonomy, and attacker innovation are reshaping cloud security. That full report is available right now. All right, from Strike48, they have got a PDF, a 10-pager that is chock full of great information called The State of Agentic Security, Breaking Through the Trust Barrier, Insights from 100 Security Leaders and AI Trust Implementation and Data Visibility. That looks like another must-have. And finally, from NetApp, it looks like we have got a blog entry from Minith, who was on with us today. Fabulous stuff. And this is called Running AI Agents on NetApp Securely, Practically, and Without Surprises. So talks about how building an AI agent is the easy part. Making that agent useful, scalable, and trustworthy in an enterprise environment is the real challenge. Ain't it the truth? All right, so that is all of the fantastic information you have got available over in that doc section, which you have one more minute to fill out. And with that, I'm going to close up the survey and do that last bit, which is to give away the gift card. We've got a $250 Amazon gift card, as I mentioned at the beginning, and we do have a winner right now. The winner is Scott Bear from Vermont. Way to go, Scott Bear from Vermont. You might call this $250 gift card you could use for some bare necessities, huh? What do you think? Way to go, Scott, and sit tight because we will be in touch ASAP about claiming your prize. All right, folks, we are just about wrapped now. On behalf of the SmartBrief team, a huge shout out today to our sponsors, Automox, NetApp, Strike48, and Wiz for making this event possible. And once again, I cannot thank enough Sneha, Tim, Jason, and Minith for one of the most enjoyable chats I have had in a long time. It has been a true delight for me to be here with you today. I hope to see all of you in the next event. And until then, folks, have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one.